parent care.
Yeah, that's a lot, right?
Yes, it's taking its toll.
It does. It definitely is exhausting. I'm not gonna lie about that part.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep a small private practice, and I'm still at CHOP right now until I can figure out, this whole, right now ain't no time to be making no serious moves.
Right. It's a little uncertain right now, exactly.
Yes, very. So I'm trying to navigate my way all the way through all of this stuff.
Yeah. Teaching, you're talking children, adults?
Well, I teach for a couple of colleges now, so I'm looking to teach full time as opposed to just as an adjunct.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, I'm hopeful. Keep your fingers crossed. I love to teach about therapy and social work and mental health. I love teaching about it.
Same.
Maybe I'll need a class.
We eventually get into that as well.
Yeah, it's really a good way to supplement your income and stuff like that. So one of the, I know we were doing the minority mental health. The only question I wanted to send that was, what are additional barriers faced by minorities in accessing mental health services? So that's the only question I had.
Tell me, when we say, give you open comments that are there any questions or is there something you'd like to explain or whatever. Even the microaggression you mentioned, so I looked it up. I didn't know if you were prepared to say anything on that. Yeah, so we can have an open mic.
So the
related to, I don't hear my guy. I'm going to run and get my phone so I can sort of keep up with what he's doing. Yeah, the J you see there is our engineer, his Jared Thomas. He's a lifesaver. Yeah, he helps me because I don't do this often, so I get nervous. Dr. Witherspoon is the host. I'm her co-host. Okay. So I get to do a few shows, but sometimes I get very nervous. So he knows. He doesn't even give me a break. He says, okay, keep going, because I don't know the cues, and I'm not in the station. I'm at home. See all my grands and great-grands behind me here. So I'm going to run and get my phone so I can keep up, and I'll be right back, because we're going to go on in about 2 minutes. Okay, be right back.
Okay.
And you say your name Tanoa, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure I said it correctly.
WEHA. It's more than music. It's ministry.
So I sent in a question to Ms. Parrish about microaggressions, like what additional barriers do minorities face when attempting to navigate mental health services, and also what microaggressions do minorities face just at a micro level trying to navigate services, application process, long waits, not being called back, things like that, that sometimes, mental health agencies sometimes, don't have the ability to staff the resources to service people from different groups. And what happens is that becomes an intimidation and also serves as a microaggression.
And I serve the Hispanic community in that office. So also there's a language barrier issue. They're trying. One of the biggest issues right now is them trying to find somebody who speaks their language. And I'm the only provider at our institution who even. And it seems like I'm the only provider because people, they'll be on a wait list for months to find somebody who speaks Spanish. So that's one of the hardest things currently, I know, for the Hispanic community. It's great that they're getting open to therapy, but then it's hard because they're not finding the providers.
The barriers are there, and this all started during COVID. Like during COVID, everybody was home, everybody had time, but then you have people, and now with the threats to Medicaid and Medicare and the fee-for-service, because now where they used to pay fee-for-service, now they want to move over to the HMOs, and you have to meet certain qualifications to get an HMO. So basically now you're going to be taking services away from more people. And remember, 35% of children in the New Jersey Medicaid system is made up by 35% children. So now you're going to start taking services away from their caregivers, who are the biggest recipients of Medicaid, and then now the children are not going to have services.
Yeah, absolutely correct.
Believe it or not, we're live already.
Oh no, really?
So our conversation has been live. So
Oh my goodness, he never said. I thought I was gonna get the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
let me do all the things I'm supposed to do for the beginning of a live show.
Okay.
Welcome to In the Community with Dr. Thelma Witherspoon and First Lady Parrish, right here on your favorite gospel radio station, two-time Stellar Award-winning radio station WEHA 88.7 and 100.3. And I am your co-host. I am Lady Parrish. This broadcast is being brought to you by the Hawks family businesses, and they've been in our community for over 35 years. And Beacon Hall, turning moments into memories. It is a venue for events, for repasts, weddings, receptions, baby showers, or anything. But it's a beautiful venue in downtown Egg Harbor City. So we are, WEHA is Christ-centered, community-focused, and listener-supported. And we have Gospel 88.7 and 100.3, Atlantic City, and the surrounding communities. And anywhere you can get us, even on 100.3 or 88.7, or even on Facebook, so you can tune in at any time. Have a few community announcements before we get into our show. Mays Landing Cardboard Regatta Can Drive. Bring non-perishables to the boat race to support your local Main Street food pantry, and that will be on July 19th. The boat races, summer jams, food trucks, and doing good. So the Cove at Lake Lenape. So if you want to support and have canned goods, of course you're going to look and make sure you're not taking expired items up there, and support your community. Okay, the next is Mayor Art Shanker invites you to join the safety tips and strategies for senior citizens, protection against scams and online threats. This is Friday, July 18th at 1:30 in Mays Landing Town Hall, and that's at 6101 13th Street. Join Atlantic County, and they gave all the names of the people, and especially the New Jersey Assembly woman Claire Swift. So it's a lot of scams going on now. I've already gotten texts and emails about what's going on in Texas, and support Texas and do this. But if you're going to support, I suggest you go through an agency like the Red Cross, United Way, or somebody reputable, but not the people that are trying to contact you by text and by phone. Also, we want to remind you about the Westminster Christian Worship Center food distribution at 2015 Morningside Avenue in Atlantic City. Every fourth Wednesday of the month, we'll be there on July 23rd. It's a client's choice, first come, first serve while supplies last. Bring your own reusable bags, your cart, your wagon, and even bring your kids with some bags, because they have a client's choice. You can get anything you want at this food distribution. I'm there every month as a volunteer, and we're giving away diapers and detergent and soap and household products. And if you see the video from last month, you'll see they had over 20 meat items that they were giving away to the families. So, if you know someone that's at the end of the month and they need a little extra, suggest they go to the food. And there's no shame to that. People are there, we make friends, we laugh, we talk, and we get to know the people that are returning, and it's just nice. So tell people, come on over to the food distribution. Pastor Thelma Witherspoon is leading that, and she has some great volunteers. We're friendly, and we are just cordial people. And so she also has a thank you for the successful June 2025 food distribution. We're deeply grateful for everyone who contributed to the success of the June's distribution. A special thanks to our incredible partners, Sure Medical, Community Food Bank of New Jersey, SNAP, Faith, Hope Exists, Atlantic County Public Health, the Golden Years Design Benefits, and your support and resources are a real difference. They made a real difference in the lives of those who serve. The last community distribution, we had a mini health fair, and the people were there taking blood pressure, signing you up for insurance, signing you up for food services. So that's the shout out to them. Also coming up on August the 7th, and we'll be giving more about August next week or two, because we're going to also be including all of the National Night Out announcements. But on August the 7th from 4 to 7, a cookout, a meet and greet with candidates Donna Witherspoon, Yvette Soto, and Tracy Thompson. It's at the Alfred Lundy Community Center, 6916 Sewell Avenue in Mizpah. Okay, so that's for our Mizpah residents, and if you want to go up there and help out, because you can always use volunteers, be sure to go up there. Now we're into our dynamic show, minority mental health, and we're going to ask our guests to introduce themselves. But I am so happy because for 5 years I've been on the show, and for 5 years I've been asking for someone to represent our Hispanic population, and I'm like, wow. So I want to give a giant shout out to Jared Lombardi. He'll be here in September with us for suicide prevention, but he came through for me, and I just hope that Salida will be a part of our team for mental health, because it's so needed. Let's start out and tell us about yourself. So we're going to start with our special guest, Salida, and then to our next special guest, Tanoa. Yes.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Salida Rivera. I'm a licensed associate counselor for Family Empowerment Associates and for Family Empowerment Recovery Services in Galloway. I've been in the field not as long as Tanoa. Tanoa has all the experience, but I've been doing this for about 6 years now. I went to school much later in life, but I have to say I found my passion. So I'm so grateful to be here.
Thank you. Tanoa, our veteran guest, she comes through. I mean, you don't have to wait. As soon as I hit that "can you" button, she had, yes, I appreciate that. Truly do. I really do.
I appreciate you, my Miss Parrish. You know that I can't say no. You and a couple other of our community spiritual mothers, for me, spiritual mothers. I always come, and I always will. It's an honor to do so, Salida. Welcome. It's a pleasure to be with you. You, like I said, you know all my people. So as far as I'm concerned, you are family. My name is Tanoa Bettis. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I've been in the field of social work for about 17 years, and I've been doing therapy for feels like just as long, different forms of behavior modification. I'm the owner, operator, and founder of Caring Connections Counseling Services. I have been blessed enough to be in business for the past 9.5 years. I do not take that for granted. Serving my community, my mission and vision was always to serve my community in any way that I can. I'm a licensed clinician for Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, right here in Mays Landing, working and serving the children around in our community with emotional and behavioral challenges. So thank you again for having me.
Thank you. And that goes right into our first question that we had for you. Like, actually, what makes up your client base? You know, who are the people you serve? And to know, you said you serve CHOP, so that is the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, right?
That is my full-time job, yes. And my primary population there, of course, is children. In my private practice, I serve clients anywhere between the ages of 6 years old and 60 years old. Even higher, I've had patients in the later generations as well. Yes, ma'am.
Probably.
Yes, ma'am. So in my private practice, of course, I serve clients across the lifespan. My practice has always been very diverse, which I take pride in that. And as far as my community population, I'm moving more into group services as well. So I will be doing, we'll be doing group therapy as well at some point. But yes, in my private practice, I serve patients and clients, however you name them, across the lifespan.
Sorry, Coach Salida.
So for me, in the outpatient realm, just like Tanoa, I do see a diverse group of people. I do have a majority of females that do come to me, women. I'm starting to see a larger influx of men, though, Hispanic and Black men, which I'm really excited about, because that's one population that I've always wanted to work more with. Just trying to get them to come through the door is a challenge, as we know. But I am seeing them come through the door more often. I don't work with children too much. I do work with mostly teenagers if I do. 12 and up actually is my cutoff. And then on the recovery side, where I am a group facilitator, I actually work with majority men. And there's a lot of minorities there, Hispanic and Black men there. So, yeah.
It's wonderful. And so all these people, like, what do you consider to be like the leading causes of the mental health issues facing us today? Like, I know we have a lot of depression, anxiety. You can't even watch the news. What seems to be the leading, to know, do you see any trend of what's happening with that?
Well, I always tell you, you ask me a question, I'm going to give you an answer. I'm going to give you an answer. The primary issue that I see is undiagnosed, unpronounced trauma, generational trauma, which fosters those symptoms of depression and anxiety. There's loads of generational patterns that have not been addressed. As you know, many minority populations are, don't ask, don't tell, put it under the rug, it doesn't matter, just keep on moving, which then trickles down and you start having these generational patterns. So it comes down to, depression, anxiety, overthinking, rumination, substance use. People tend to cope the best way that they can. So, now people are becoming, I think since COVID, we have gotten more comfortable with using the term trauma. We also, now what I'm seeing more so in generations, maybe between the ages of 16 and 25, I'm starting to see a lot more psychosis, psychosis symptoms, which of course, if you or I, or even Salida, go to a doctor and we're describing that we're having some overthinking, lack of sleep, whatever the symptoms, it's usually going to be usually minimized, right, down to some type of, you need to manage your stress better. But a lot of, especially women and women of color, are being more, coming up on the scales more for high-end anxiety disorders, which is, trickle into mania and then going into trauma symptoms, and then if untreated long enough can turn into some form of psychosis. So, we used to be the average depression, anxiety, but now the pendulum is going way further than that.
Salida.
I agree with Tanoa about the generational trauma, but currently, specifically with the Hispanic community, there are other challenges currently. So especially I work with a lot of immigrants. So as we know, there's a lot of uncertainty with the immigrant community, and anxiety and depression is skyrocketing in that community because of, racial, racial profiling, because if they're Hispanic, then they must be immigrants, and now, potentially being deported. Yes. Uncertainty of whether they're going to be in the country much longer. I have tons of clients who are literally making backup plans, like, what happens if I go back to my country? How am I going to worry about my kids because their children were born here? So there's a whole other realm of issues currently happening with the Hispanic community. So
it's just causing me anxiety. That is, I mean, it overwhelms me when I see a mother having to leave her children, and then I'm not a psych major or even a therapist, but I really get into saying I cannot believe someone would be so narcissistic to split up families and not even care. That has really had a major impact on me as a parent, as a U.S. citizen, and to have for people to have to worry about their lives. I think this era is one of the most devastating the 6 months, so we're in the 7 months now that I've ever seen in my life. And it not only, I think, impact the Hispanic community, but those of us that have family and relatives that are in the Hispanic community. I mean, because we're not just non-diverse with our families are also intertwined, and we have diverse family. I worry about my great-grandson, that if he goes to the store, whether they're going to handcuff him or not. You know, these are just things that you worry about, because, not worry, but because I know the Bible says not to worry, but just have a healthy concern about our children. And then reading the younger people, they handcuffed the young man the other day. And found out he's a citizen. But it's like, these people are like vigilantes to me, you know, and that concerns me. That does. So yes. I had a question on here. What are your feelings about it's okay not to be okay? That was one of the questions, because people have anxiety, I know. And what do you think about that? To know, how does that ring to you? You see it a lot on my page. It's okay not to be okay.
And what I love about that is that it's giving validation to a population and a group of people that are not getting that validation, or usually are not affirmed by that. And also, I know me as an African American woman, you know, I was always raised so you don't wear your feelings on your sleeve. You just keep going. You go to work, you take care of your kids. And this is the unfortunate pathology that many African American people have adopted, especially women. So it's not, you know, it's not all right to feel sad. Oh, you know, you got to get it together, keep it moving. You know, things like those type of statements are very minimizing. And I think that it's good when I start seeing, and like I said, I have to, you know, attribute COVID for having us sit down and reflect on our mental and social and emotional health, because, you know, mental health is usually put to the side. You know, as long as you know, the cliche was, you know, go to your medical doctor, make sure your medical health is good, but your emotional health, your mental health, your social health, your financial health, that just goes to the side. But what I see happen in COVID is we start putting all that together and made it a nice cocktail. And now if those things are not together, then you're not going to be okay. Mental health is health. It's not set aside. It's not to the side. So you can have the best house, the best relationship, but if your mental health is not intact, none of that will come together, because your mental health is how you function and navigate the world and life from day to day. So I'm glad that people were bold enough to say, no, I'm not okay. And I think it was really paramount when you had like executives and unfortunately spiritual leaders that were coming out and saying, no, I'm not okay. I have a relationship with God. I go to church. I do all the things I need to do. I, you know, cross all my, you know, T's and dot my I's, but I wake up every morning and I don't feel good and I don't feel well. So I think it was a good way to kind of, you know, catapult that out there and say, I'm not okay. I mean, me personally, I have t-shirts, pocketbook bags, mugs, and everything that say, I'm not okay, you know, and I'm a professional. So if I can say that and I'm walking and living in this, I want it to be okay for other people to say, no, I'm not okay, especially now in this tumultuous world that we're living in. All this uncertainty, like Salita alluded to, like people don't know where they're going to wake up the next morning. People don't know if they go to work, am I on the list to be fired today? Like people just don't know. So yes, I think it's definitely okay to for this whole platform of I'm not okay. Absolutely.
What about that?
I love that term, by the way. It's not okay. It's okay to be not okay, right? Specifically because of like I was talking about before about men. That's a term that I say a lot to men, and the reason I say that to them often, because again I work with people in recovery, is all their lives they were told, you know, men don't cry, you know, you have to suck it up, you have to figure it out. And I like to remind them that, you know what, we're all human beings, and vulnerability is not a weakness, however, it is a strength. And if we change the narrative on that term vulnerability, you know, and people understand that, you know what, it's okay to ask for help if you need it, because too many men are suffering in silence, women are suffering in silence, kids, right? So we have to be able to tell people that it is okay to not be okay. again, like a mental health professional, they stress self-care for us. They say, hey, you have to take care of yourself, because if you don't, you're going to burn out. And every once in a while, I have to remind myself, hey, I need an extra day off because I'm not okay. So I think that's super important for people to understand that. So.
And you have to, be honest with yourself. And because sometimes we do, we sort of mask our true feelings, and we have to smile, and and all the time it doesn't. You're going through a lot of things too, and so I tell people it's okay if you're not having a great day, and sort of maybe give a few things like what we can do to maybe improve. But some days you just don't have a great day. I've been through that, so we're going to promote that. It's okay not to be okay every day. Life is just not perfect, Who would you encourage to seek mental health services? And then I have a piggyback on that too. Who would you suggest? But then that's another question. Once you suggest it, where do they go and what do they do? So who would you suggest? To seek mental health services? Back up to Tanoa.
So this is going to sound a little strange, but I just recently got certified in child mental health for children between the ages of 0 and 6 years old. Mm-hmm. 0 meaning infancy, right? Mm-hmm. Like this, we start to feel immediately. Mm-hmm. In the womb, we start to feel. So we have to come up with a standard of what is optimal mental health and when is optimal health not optimized. Like what signs and signals and bells and ringers are we seeing in people? But of course that goes based upon developmental ages, right? So if my child is acting up in school, I can't automatically assume that it's behavior. Is there something going on with this child's affect? Are they, their mood is off? What's happening here? Honestly, in any family system, we have to really reconnect with our family members and understand this is normal behavior, this is not normalized behavior. And in regards to where to start, a lot of times, and this is supposed to be the standard, now I could be wrong, when we take children to get physicals, or teenagers or adolescents, and even as women and adults, men and as adults, we go to doctors, they're supposed to do a depression scale and they're supposed to do an anxiety scale, just a baseline. That just gives a baseline. So really, unless you are, you can call pound 211 for the state of New Jersey, and that will give you any type of resource that you need. So people can look there, but also I will also suggest starting at your medical practitioner, because they can also offer referrals, but they can also offer feedback. They can do blood tests. I don't know if people know this, but there are blood tests that they can do now that can test your blood levels to see if you're having like a down mood, or your mood is kind of labile, like in the middle, and you're kind of floating. Like medical practitioners are equipped now to do those fundamental baseline testing to have you referred to community mental health agencies. So depending on of course, unfortunately, those barriers like insurances and transportation and accessibility, I really think a good place to start is with your medical practitioner. Or if you have an employer, you have an EAP, Employee Assistance Program, you can start there. So there's, and don't forget about Dr. Google. Like you can Google like mental health services near me. I don't want to make it complicated for people, but even like me and Slater were talking about earlier, even once you make connection with a lot of these agencies, they don't have the resources to service people from every group. So there's going to be barriers, but I always say just keep going until you get what you need.
I was going to say, just to piggyback off of what Tanoa said, you also have on the back of your insurance card, there's always a phone number, right? Case management or whatever the case may be. You can always call that number and ask them to hook you up with a provider, right? Mental health services. There are also, resources online like Psychology Today that you could use that will filter out people specific to what you're looking for, right? So, depending on their background, or if they speak another language, or, theoretical approaches, it could filter that way. So.
So this stuff. Now this is going to be a piggyback as well, because once I ask why, then we're going to go to the questions to Noah had. But why do you think there's such a stigma in getting mental health care for, I call it the BIPOC community, which is the Black, Indigenous, and people of color? Why do you think there is a stigma? Over the years on TV, everybody had a therapist. Oh, I saw my therapist, and my therapist, and now we saw it not with us, not like us, but we saw it. And did you see your therapist? Yes, I have my therapist. But why is it such a stigma for us to have that? Who wants to go first? To Noah. You lit up.
I'm gonna, I'm just gonna listen. I'm just gonna come out and say it because I feel like we're all friends here, right? The stigma is created by us. We create the stigmas that hold us back. And I say us, I mean African American people, minorities, period. We create the stigmas. Okay, yes, we didn't create the oppression, but we definitely create the stigmas, right? I'm gonna tell you right now, as an African American female, I've been in therapy since I was 13 years old. I saw my first therapist, and he didn't look like me, but now we're living in a day and time where you can pretty much find an African American or minority therapist anywhere. Now, I know we are definitely have a shortage of men minority therapists, but we're working on that too. Last year it was me and my other friend, your grandson.
Yeah.
Damir, I watched Damir come up. Where is Damir? I watched him come up through the ranks.
I wanted him, and he's busy. I know he's busy, and so we will probably have him another time. But it's nice to have a male on the show as well, because it gives credence, or whatever is another word, to say, okay, it's okay for men to seek help. And you were at my MegaFest, and we had a men's mental health seminar at MegaFest. I'm going to forever push mental health, especially for men, because we need it. Most of us have been traumatized somewhere along the line, and childhood trauma does have its triggers. As more I learned, the more I was like, oh, okay, where'd that come from? But yes,
racism. Racism is so good. Racism, marginalization, segregation. And I, when I said this 2 years ago, I was probably talking about, not as recent, but right now we're living under these segregated, oppressive races, stipulations. We're back there somehow. We're back here again. And now it's even, okay, so now you're telling me I'm going to lose my benefits. Now you're telling me I could lose my housing. So I'm depressed. But if I go to the doctor and tell the doctor that I'm depressed, then they're going to call DIFUS and possibly take my children away. So now it's starting to trickle down. So where we were making segue from COVID currently, people, like Salita said, more minorities are coming into therapy and getting services. And, like I said, on TikTok, if you don't have a TikTok therapist, or you're not talking about your therapy sessions on TikTok, you're just not cool, right? So now we're more comfortable, but now we're back under this segregated umbrella where people are going to feel more vulnerable, saying, I can't go to my boss and say I need a mental health day because I don't even know if I'm going to have my job tomorrow. And is my boss, who may or may not look like me, judging me based upon these historical, pathological lies that were told and created about people that look like me? So even though we didn't create the stigmas, we tend to feed them.
Coming up and need a facility? Well, let me tell you about Atlantic County's newest
They're giving us a commercial.
Beacon Hall, located in the heart of Egg Harbor City, right off the White Horse Pike. Beacon Hall is a full-service banquet facility that is 5,000 square feet with an attached parking lot. Book your conferences, book signings, birthday parties, bridal showers, baby showers, weddings, repasts. No event is too big or too small. You can book your next event by calling us at 609-965-4255 or email us at bookbeaconhall@gmail.com. That's BOOKBEACONHALL@gmail.com. Try Beacon Hall, where we turn moments into cherished memories.
What if I could tell you when a wildfire was going to happen? Of course, I can't. But shouldn't you be ready anyway? Go to ready.gov/communicate and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait.
Hawks, a name that has been trusted for almost 30 years in the janitorial services industry, is proud to present Hawks Professional Moving Services. Fully insured, local and long distance, packing services, commercial and residential. No job too small or too large. Friendly and reliable services. For more information or a free estimate, 609-484-0452. Hawks Professional Moving Services, where we treat your belongings like our own.
When is the best time to talk to your family about staying in touch during a disaster? Amid the chaos? Or is the best time perhaps today? Go to ready.gov/communicate and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait. Communicate.
Hawks Janitorial Contractors Corp. was established in 1987 by husband and wife team William and Elaine Hawks. Our motto is a great job at a fair price. The Hawks team is skillful, customer-focused, delivering quality janitorial services that meet and exceed our clients' specific needs. Hawks Janitorial Contractors Corp., proud sponsors of Gospel 88.7 FM. For more information, 609-484-0452.
Tune into In the Community with Thelma Witherspoon, Saturdays 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Gospel 88.7 FM.
We're back from our commercials, and what we do in the middle of our show, we usually give a shout out to those that are watching and responding to us on Facebook. So I want to say good morning to Dr. Witherspoon, and she's taking a break today, and she says, she's watching. Good morning, El Presidente, Deacon William Hawks. He said good morning. You can lay it back. I call her Doctor, Associate Pastor Carol Marksdale said, good morning, Dr. Witherspoon, Lady Parish, WEHA, and to your esteemed guest today. I'm especially proud of Miss Bettis, noting her back from our working in the hospital days. Okay? And Joanna, I think that's how she says that, love, she's tuning in from Atlanta. And she says, so true. We believe that therapists are not for us. And I usually have Judy Chamberlain and a couple others, so I don't know if I missed them or not, but we want to give a shout out to everyone who's looking and listening to us today. And if you think someone could benefit from this information, it stays online, so they can always go back to this segment and get some valuable information. So we were in the middle of talking about why do we think there's such a stigma in getting mental health care in our what we call BIPOC community. And we Selena, what do you think is that? Why do you think that's the problem?
Well, so a few things actually. I'm going to talk specifically about Hispanic community again, but there is this mentality, it's called the machista mentality. It's a very patriarchal way of thinking. If you ask for help in any capacity, you're weak, right? Again, or if you suggest somebody needs therapy, oh, but I'm not crazy. Like that's not what it is. Like they seem to make it very simplified, right? Or that's the only reason you get therapy. So again, we get in our own way. We get in our own way because these are things that have been brought down through generations. We don't talk about it. We don't speak about it. If we don't speak about it, it didn't happen. Okay. And we just kind of we have to just get over it, basically. That's the mentality. And that's just not how it works. Because then we create these generational traumas that continue from generation to generation, and nobody gets better. I'm really proud of the younger generation, though, I have to say. They're much more in tune with their emotions. They're much more open to getting the therapy I'm seeing. And as a result, I am seeing some parents now get therapy because they see their kids have been doing it for a while, which I think that's wonderful. And specifically Hispanic men, when I tell you that's really hard to get to come through the door, woo! I'm so excited when I see a new Hispanic man walk through the door and I get a new client. But I'm seeing the numbers go up little by little. It's not as fast as I would love it to be, but it's happening. I think it's just with time. And again, that vulnerability, having people understand that it's not a weakness, it is a strength. We need to ask for help. We are a society meant to be around other people. We're not meant to be alone. So if people would understand that more and say, okay, I'm struggling, right? Hey, I'm not okay. What do I do? You know, even if it's just a conversation that starts off, I think that's wonderful, right?
I agree. And the other thing, Salita, just to add to you, and I agree with 100% of what you said, especially about the Hispanic population, because I try so much, especially working with children, like trying to get them engaged, like, you know, and it's like, it's so hard to get, you know, for us to, all of us, get rid of those generational patterns. I don't like to call them curses. I call them patterns because there's nothing about a minority that is cursed. We are the contributors. We are the biggest contributors to the society and to this country. So I definitely won't ever call it a curse. The other thing that I think that has helped is that it's more minority providers out here now. There's so, when I first got into this field years ago, there were a couple of us, but now, I mean, there's an influx of, you know, you look at I looked at the graduations that occur every year, and I look at the psychology and social work majors. I see y'all going to school to become therapists, and I love it. And like I said at the beginning, as I pass the torch, you know, on direct practice and move more into academia, I look forward to teaching more minorities, especially minority males, on how to provide psychotherapeutic services, you know, how to build that therapeutic rapport. You know, I look into it. I know all three of my children, and I don't know if they're listening or they're here, but I'm gonna tell you business. All three of my children have been to therapy and will continue to go to therapy. And like I said, I go to therapy every single week. I've been in therapy for over 40 years, and I am, you know, to become a therapist, I ask God, you know, I do know this is a religious radio station. I had to ask God, okay, so you're gonna use me, you know, for your people, but he said, who, you know, if not you, then who, you know? So I do think that the representation of minority psychotherapists, and I want to give us our pop and call us psychotherapists. We are psychotherapists. We have to be licensed. We have to be credentialed. Nobody has given us this. We are earning these credentials, and we are graciously giving back to our communities. We have to sit and take tests. So, you know, please don't ever think that, you know, when you come through the door, we're judging you, because we're not judging you, because just like you're coming to your appointments, we're going to our appointments as well. So, you know, use us as vessels, but definitely representation matters. So we just got to keep, you know, us, minority providers going into this field and going on to, you know, to become psychologists, and definitely psycho pharmacologists, and also psychiatric representation is important too, because, you know, once someone comes into therapy, a lot of times we do make referrals for psychopharm for them to have medications. And if I'm a Black woman, I'm going to feel way more comfortable going to someone to prescribe or make recommendations for me that looks like me and understands the minoritized experience. So.
And I just wanted to say something real quick though. And you had said before about how Black male therapists, right? There weren't enough of them. And when I tell you Hispanic male therapists are unicorns. When I tell you they're unicorns, and not just that they're Hispanic males, but that speak Spanish. Because let's add that into there, because again, you can be Hispanic and male and be a therapist, but if you don't speak the language, then it's really, you know what I'm saying? It's not serving the community as well as it could. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I'm talking about unicorns. I don't know any. If anybody knows one, let me know, because I don't know any.
Yeah, you know, we need to look around, because to know and know, she's been coming. I've been on this show for 5 years, and ever since I've been on the show, I've advocated for mental health and minority mental health, because I know it's a need out there. But even my personal physician asked me, did I know any Hispanic or Spanish speaking therapists, because she wanted to refer. And then I had one that I've actually been trying to get on the show for a couple of years, and she's sort of like, no. But we have to pull together as minorities, as a BIPOC community. We have to pull together to serve the needs of our people, you know, because, I mean, some things are, you know, they're there for others, but we need it. I'm looking for the question to piggyback on this. To Noah submitted a question, said, what are the additions and barriers to minorities that minorities face when they're navigating mental health. And I think we sort of touched on that, but we're going to go back to that. What are the barriers that people face?
Well, so barriers. So there's there's so many different categories. The shame, guilt. I have worked with families who get the shame from their own families just for seeking services. Why are you doing that? Why do you need to do that? And then when you talk about the economic barriers, like I talked about earlier, the lack of insurance, the lack of agencies that accept, state issued insurances, and even commercial insurances now are starting to pull back on how they approve and authorize mental health services. So there's family barriers, there's economic barriers, there's like I said, social barriers, like the fear of being judged by your colleagues or your friends. And then there's those micro, macro, meso barriers that come from the agencies. Well, I don't know if I want to help this person right now, but I can help this person, but I'm not sure if I want to give this person the same respect. So there's a lot of racism and segregation when you're looking for services. Sometimes I wish I could just come out of who I am and go to an agency and call an agency and see how I would be treated if I told them that I am African American woman with state insurance. What would be the follow-up? Would you just say no to me, or would you refer me out to someone that could help me, because you may not want to be bothered, or your agency may not take my insurance? So there's various barriers that people face, and even in the systems within that I work, I have barriers because I don't take all insurances, and not because I don't want to, but because there's those systematic barriers at the top that say, you won't authorize certain clinicians to take certain insurances if they live in a certain demographic area. So the barriers start at the top, and we're constantly fighting through these things. That's why the more the better it is, because you can reach out and get kind of go through some of these barriers without offending people and without feeling offended. But I will say that if you are a minority, a person of color, it doesn't matter what your demographics are or what your features or your aesthetics are, you will face some type of barrier. And the problem is, a lot of these agencies don't know who they're speaking to on the other line. They're not giving minorities enough credit and knowing what they deserve and what their rights are. So, just if you get discouraged, just keep calling, keep asking, reach out to someone, to get the information you need, because there's no reason why a barrier should keep someone from receiving services. I mean, I've seen situations where people didn't get services and they end up, in some type of mental health crisis. And I've seen other situations, online and different trainings I've been to. I've heard of situations where people have ended their life simply because, they were turned away, or they could have been given a simple phone call, a phone number, or somebody could have made the call with them. In the state of New Jersey, any child between the ages, I believe, of 3 and 22 years old, young adult, can receive free mental health services, and that's not based upon their income or level of insurance. And I can add that number into the chat as well, through Perform Care.
Shalita?
Well, I mean, all of the things that Tanoa just said absolutely apply also to the Hispanic community. But, in the Hispanic community, again, immigration, let's say the immigrants who are fearful of going to someone because they don't know if they're going to get, told on, or if also the language barriers, because majority of them, their English isn't good. And so finding a provider who can give them the services they need also in their language. So that's one of the main barriers for them as well. But all of the other stuff applies as well.
We're talking, because you didn't mention insurance. Are there any services actually covered by the health insurances? I mean, you mentioned that some are, some aren't. Are there any, do our health insurance have clause, or are there any health insurance coverages for mental health services? Or does your agency, maybe I should say, does your agency take insurance coverages for mental
So
health?
at our
That's a
agency,
better question.
yeah, we take pretty much all insurances, including state insurance. So we do Medicaid, Medicare, every insurance under the book. We're pretty much certified in all of them, which makes us unique to that. You know, not a lot of agencies take all of the insurances. I'm sure there's some that are not accepted, but usually it's like somebody who's maybe transferred from a different state or something like that. But that's not very often. But yeah, so we're pretty well rounded. And again, the recovery side is covered by state grants. So if a person doesn't have insurance, they can get a state grant. Although I don't know how long those grants are going to be in place moving forward, because they've had many cuts to the program, specifically mental health and substance use. It's really scary, because I can't imagine what that's going to do to the people who are struggling right now and then not having those services available. So we'll see.
Now, my agency, I do take most commercial insurances, and I am working with the state on taking some of the state insurances. I know there's a lot of referendums and changes going on, like Salita said. You know, as of July 1, there was supposed to be this huge shift in the Medicaid system, and that same day we got an email saying that shift was not going to happen. It was placed on hold, but that was also the same week that the bill was being signed. The not so beautiful bill was being signed, so we're just waiting to see. But I am working on that to try to filter a few state insurance clients through my agency, just as a protective factor, and you know, just for emergency on an emergency basis. But yes, but there are free services. I know Atlantic Care has a free, I think it's called ARS, where you can call and be triaged, and they will assign you to a therapist. No one should be turned away for a mental health crisis. So even if you have to go to the emergency room and say, hey, you know, I need this, or like I said earlier, dial 211, which is the service. You can get information on any service that New Jersey has to offer. And then also 988, of course, is the National Suicide Hotline. So there's no reason for anyone to be turned away. I know as a therapist, as a BIPOC, like you said, an African American therapist, I almost feel responsible for for everybody, but we just can't be. So definitely reaching out is the first step, to get those referrals and information that you need, because there's always going to be someone who's going to give you the information. So please do.
And 988, by the way, I just wanted to say with Tanoa, the 988 number is the suicide hotline, but even if you're struggling just mentally, not having suicidal ideations, you can still call the number and talk to someone. There's always someone on staff 24/7. So, okay. That's
wonderful. We also have that information every week on our flyer, the 211, the 988, and information for hotlines that serve the community. If you look at our flyers, you will see that in our right-hand corner of the flyer every week, so that we make sure that we try to reach the population that may not have seen us before. Now, do you offer consultations, or are there any, do you open your agency for consultation?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I do. Yes, I do phone consultations. I'm also on Psychology Today, Therapy for Black Girls. You can Google me. I do consultations. Normally they are at no charge. I do like to give people the opportunity to tell me what they need, because I might not be able to meet their needs. Right. So absolutely, I do consultations, and if I can't do a consultation, I always refer out. I have so many, like I said, I'm so blessed to know so many people who have now come into the mental health field, and I do not mind giving their names out. If they're listening, yes, I will call you out. I send people to Family Empowerment all the time. Family Empowerment was intricate in the start of my career. I know the owners, and they're my colleagues, and we all ran these streets together working with the kids in the in-home circuit. So I have no problem, but if I can't, meet your needs, I definitely know who can. So.
Yeah, I also offer consultations. Yeah, anybody who feels that they want to, like, I think that's important to give a consultation because I always say the experience, the therapeutic experience, is about the client, right? And if you're not connecting with therapists, then I think it's important for them to find a person who is going to connect with them, right? So, you know, speaking to them for 10, 15 minutes so they can get to know a little bit about me and if it's going to be a good fit, I think that's a good idea. Why waste the client's time, you know? I always say this is an experience for them and they should have a good experience. I never take it personal if they don't choose to stay with me. I'm okay with that because it's about them, right? Yeah.
Now, do you have a number that they could call, or like a 1-800?
I don't know, 1-800. You have the number to the office. I can put it in the chat if you like.
Just, if you tell them, or sure.
But also, our number over at the office is 609-916-6500. And they can call the office. They can always ask for me by name and, you know, hey, I'd like to get a consultation with Salita or Sally. I always tell people to call me Sally. So, yeah.
So my number is, I'm on Psychology Today, and I put that in the chat already. But my business number is the same as my personal number, and they can call me and it filters into a different system, but you'll always get me. I'll answer the phone. I have a Facebook page, Karen Connections Counseling, LLC, and a lot of people just honestly just come find me on Facebook and inbox me and say, hey, I need some help, and I'm okay with that because I feel like as long as you're going to get the help, that's all that's important. Where you land, once you land with me, I will put you in the right direction, but just the biggest step is reaching out. That's the first step. Absolutely. And a lot of times we stand in our own way for these cognitive beliefs that society, has created, and that many of them, in the minority population have just adapted to and learned to accept. And right now, it's like a biggest, this is the greatest time for people to start building communities, for mental wellness. Mental health, like I said in the beginning, is not separate from wellness. It's a part of, and it needs to be treated as such, not as a stigma or what's wrong with you. What was the book? I read a book a couple years ago during COVID that said, stop asking people what's wrong with them and ask what happened to them.
Yes.
Because you might find that the same thing that person is experiencing, you're experiencing, but just in a different way. Because one thing we've learned to do as masters is mask. We mask everything. We put on our best, lashes and our makeup, and we're out there, and the whole time, we're broken. But minorities do carry their hurt differently because we're trained to do so. But just because you don't see the blood doesn't mean we're not bleeding. And we need to gather that mentality.
Yes. And you know what is real, and I dealt with it with a few people this year, is postpartum depression.
Oh, yes.
That is really real. So we want to say to our community that's listening that if you've recently had a baby and things are just coming together for you and you're in the bed in the dark, get some help, call one of these numbers to get some guidance, because I saw that, and that's really, really real. I know you all have, and we really want to reassure our listeners about confidentiality. Just because you're a community person and people know you in the community, you're not out there telling everybody who came to see you, what they said, what they did. So let's talk about confidentiality and HIPAA. Your whatever, I don't know the word I need, but you have to abide by HIPAA. Yes. So let's talk about the confidentiality. Salita, you can go first.
Okay. So let's talk about confidentiality. I mean, it's critical, especially in our field, right? We want people to trust us. So how do we get them to trust us? We have to be able to say, hey, whatever you speak about, it stays in these walls, right? It's not leaving this room. Otherwise, people, they're just not going to come to us. Why would they? These people are opening up about deep, dark secrets, trauma. That's not something that you can open up about if you feel like your confidentiality is going to be compromised in some way, right? And again, we are held to that standard. There's a reason why also ethically, you have to have confidentiality. That is your license. Your license is at stake if you do not hold confidentiality. So it is a HIPAA violation if we share with anyone. Even colleagues, you have to be careful with that. So that's something that's really important for people to understand.
And we're held under so many stipulations, like the licensing board, like you have your individual agency guidelines on HIPAA. You have your email has to be protected. Like you have to, so we're held down by licensing boards. We're held down by the Civil Rights Board. We're held down under federal regulations. And not only that, but I do want to emphasize that in counseling, and I know Salida does this as well, there is no such thing as absolute confidentiality, because if you tell me you're going to harm yourself or someone else, I am obligated to call and get help and be a vessel of protection for you. But all other areas of psychotherapy are protected under HIPAA guidelines. But yes, we do only time a therapist has to speak outside of their session is when someone is in threat of danger, if someone is in danger, endangering their self or endangering someone else. So, but outside of it, yes, absolutely.
And they report it. Yes.
Mandated reporters to child protection laws. And, we just have to protect our clients by all means. Now, sometimes that ruptures the relationship, but once you work through it and process it, the relationship is definitely able to repair. So.
Great. And we're sort of wrapping it up, and we're enjoying this session. What are your thoughts would you leave with our listening audience? Salida, is there any thoughts that you leave with us today?
Yes. So I always tell this to my clients. I say, listen, we're not responsible for the trauma that was inflicted upon us when we were kids. We're not responsible for, the relationships, the abusive relationships we experienced. But as adults, we are absolutely responsible for taking accountability and fixing the damage that was done. So I think it's really important for people to remember that, you can't just keep using those things as excuses for bad behaviors. You have to make a change. And therapy is not just for people with severe mental health. It's for changing things that we know we should change, like toxic behaviors that we know we're bringing into relationships and things like that. So it's really important for people, like we always have an opportunity to be better, right? We should be better than the person we were yesterday, right? And not competing with anyone, just ourselves, making ourselves better. So I think that's important. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Tanoa.
So I was actually extra because I knew you were going to ask this question, because you ask it all the time. Like every time I've been on, you always ask me, and I was like, okay, like where do I want to go? Because I could tell you, as an ADHD therapist, I'm all around. So I actually wrote down 2 things, okay? It says, your story matters. You matter. You honor it every time you ask for help and share your story. That's number 1. Progress in life is not promised, and it's not perfection. Keep choosing yourself. Keep asking for help, even when it's hard.
That is fantastic. I don't know if you read my post, and I said sometimes you have to clap for yourself. Small victories. Small victories. Yes. Yes. So even if you've done better yet today, you got up and you got to the living room. That's a small victory. If you were staying in bed in the dark. So you clap for yourself, and I've been using that for me, because everybody's not going to give you a bed of roses than you make achievements. So we clap for ourselves, and that enables us to clap for others, So I thank you so very much for being on the show again. I'll call you Salida. I'm glad to connect with you. Tanoa, I'm always happy with you. Thank you so much. And we'll get that Daimir hit on here. And we're going to have a 4. We're going to have a foursome. We're going to get Daimir and Jared on something together. And we'll be the 4 of us. And I think that would just be great. So thank you. Have a great weekend. And to our listening audience, take somebody to church tomorrow. And just have a great weekend, and thank you so much. You all have a great day, and God bless you. Okay, take care. All right.